Teaching design thinking to increase social justice, awareness and information literacy, Peggy Bloomer, Assistant Professor, Art and Design, Connecticut State University, New Britain, CT. In my Redesign Design Foundation class, students learn graphic design while understanding the impact of redlining on urban communities. These student-centered and research-informed projects involve creating photobooks and data projects, using data and photography to craft visual narratives. The assignments draw inspiration from a curational archive proposal addressing efforts in New Haven, Connecticut to reconnect the West River and Hill neighborhoods after being divided by Interstate 95 and 91 in the 1950s and 60s. These neighborhoods were designated based on the Housing and Loan Commission's, HOLC, maps from Roosevelt's New Deal, which exist for 200 American cities. In my classes, students explore these HOLC maps and their correlations to crime, school quality, health, and other social issues, aligning with the university's strategic goal to enhance diversity and community engagement while meeting the design program's learning outcomes. This year's ethnic composition of the design program mirrors the diversity of New Britain, with significant representation of Hispanic, Latino, and Black African American students, as shown in the table on this slide. Central Connecticut State University, a member of the Coalition of Urban and Metropolitan Universities, CUMU, supports strategic goals to increase diversity and community representation by maintaining a diverse student body and encouraging first-generation college students. This diversity is reflected in the ethnic breakdown of this year's design program. The projects aim to support the university's strategic goals and emphasize creating a safe space focused on diversity, inclusion, and idea exchange, while also fulfilling the program's learning outcomes. 3 departmental learning outcomes assessed annually in design courses applied to the foundation class projects. 1. Apply design theory, process principles from a creative perspective. Learning outcome number 1 supports a design foundation for visual aesthetics. Students apply design theory and process from an aesthetic perspective. 2. Think critically/use design vocabulary appropriately. This is an evaluation of student skill sets in analytic thinking and creative problem solving. Learning outcome 4, design for print media. In addition, the university and department aim to enhance information literacy with a special focus on fake news and visual literacy. Activities such as class trips to the campus library, creating annotated bibliographies, and developing qualitative and quantitative data projects help students improve their information literacy. The first unit and project of the semester begins with lectures and workshops, covering the principles and elements of design and Gestalt visual perception theory. The initial project involves creating a photobook, supported by an exploration of the photobook as a genre. Students use the library database to find an example of a photobook, retrieve it during a class trip to the CCSU Elihu Burritt Library, and share their findings. They analyze the use of white space, type and photo hierarchy, the grid system, and tactile elements such as paper and ink. Previously, students were tasked with taking a minimum of 4 photos, demonstrating each principle and element of design using their phones or a DSLR camera borrowed from the University Media Center. They curated 56 photos into a Photoshop contact sheet, selecting at least 24 images. These images were then edited in Adobe Lightroom and imported into Adobe InDesign to create a booklet featuring 4 covers and at least 8 interior pages. The project, which supports Learning Outcome 4, is printed, shared, and critiqued in a formal written assignment, also supporting Learning Outcomes 1 and 2. I discovered that the city has 4 walking trails with signage that students could use for this project. We printed maps of the trails, met on a Saturday morning, shared rides, and began taking photos for class the following Monday. Given CCSU's large commuting population and the tuition program for nearby states, I accommodated students from Massachusetts and Rhode Island who wished to photograph their home cities. Connecticut students from New Haven, West Hartford, and Waterbury could also participate as long as they chose a city with an HOLC map, as seen on the Mapping Inequality homepage. This project challenges students to curate graphic information and present images, titles, and text clearly. Despite their experience with publications, many students are unfamiliar with bookmaking conventions, including left and right-hand pages, covers, margins, gutters, and grid systems. Adding type to the project introduces additional components to handle and organize. The design program's assessment process emphasizes that comprehensive design projects improve abilities in these key areas: determining the extent of information needed, accessing information using effective search strategies and appropriate sources, critically evaluating information and sources, communicating, organizing, and synthesizing information from multiple sources clearly and deeply, using information ethically and legally. Course outcomes align with program learning outcomes, and students use their photos to collect and categorize images with type and grids, exploring various industry standard software and design trends. The results varied. Many students took stunning photos, effectively used hierarchy and white space, and a few demonstrated natural storytelling skills, integrating stories and text into their work. Students generally enjoyed the walk and using a camera, with many expressing particular enjoyment in using Adobe Lightroom for photo editing. The city, HOLC map, and data assignments. Introducing students to data visualization involved several TED Talks by Georgia Lupi, who presents data in innovative, personal ways. Following these videos, students created personal data presentations using Adobe Illustrator in 2 workshops. These workshops, low-stakes assignments, challenged students to create unique symbols representing themselves, incorporating design principles and Gestalt theory. Inspired by MIT's data portraits, students explored how cookies and personal attributes collected by websites and social media platforms can be visualized. This project supported Learning Outcome 1 by prompting students to think about personal data visualization. The projects were printed, presented, and reviewed, supporting Learning Outcomes 2 and 4. A short video from NPR, Housing, Segregation, and Redlining in America, A Short History, introduced students to the social issues related to HOLC maps. Students researched redlining, social discrimination, and urban renewal policies, sharing their findings in class presentations. Groups examined cities like Stamford, Hartford, New Haven, and New Britain, while others explored different narratives, such as discrimination against Hispanics in Los Angeles and pollution in Detroit. Students gathered data from sources like the U.S. Census, HOLC maps, and local real estate information on schools, crime, and neighborhoods. They created annotated bibliographies in APA style and compiled data in Excel files. Students also researched city historical societies and other image collections to curate visual representations of their cities, creating qualitative data for their projects. These visuals were printed, displayed, and discussed, supporting Learning Outcomes 1, 2, and 4. Students then developed infographics, adding statistical data and insights to show the impact of urban planning on quality of life. They reviewed reference data infographics, created charts of their findings, and explored Adobe Illustrator's charting capabilities. These projects encourage students to relate historical data to visual stories about urban policies and their impacts. A short open-ended survey gathered student insights and reflections, with projects printed, discussed, and shared in class. Critiques of the photobooks, collages, and infographics were based on design principles and Gestalt theory. Student feedback on the project. Students shared their thoughts on redlining and its current relevance, noting similarities to present-day town dynamics and the impact on neighborhoods. They observed parallels in education quality, crime rates, and demographic patterns. Reflections on politics and urban planning highlighted the ongoing influence of historical policies on city demographics and social conditions. Personal connections to the project varied, with some students relating the maps to their families' experiences, and others noting broader cultural changes due to immigration. Conclusion: these assignments successfully aligned with the university's strategic goals, program goals, and course outcomes. They promoted critical thinking about cities, politics, and urban planning, fostering dialogues about diversity, equity, and inclusion. Students effectively researched and utilized data sources, enhancing their information literacy and engagement in social, environmental, and political issues. This project was engaging and rewarding, and I plan to continue and further develop it in future foundation classes.